My girlfriend Sarah looked me in the eye and said, "Face it, Alex, you'll never be able to give me the life I deserve." She had no idea I was worth $50 million. My name is Alex Chen, and this is the story of how I was humiliated and abandoned after a 2-year relationship, only to discover that the girl who left me ended up dating a man whose company I would eventually own. But before I tell you how I bought my ex-girlfriend's new boyfriend's company, let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. And if you love stories about relationship justice and karma, make sure to hit that subscribe button because you're going to want to hear every single detail of this revenge. 3 years ago, I was 25 years old and working as a software developer at a tech company in Seattle. On paper, it was a good job. The salary was decent, the benefits were solid, and working in a glass skyscraper downtown made me feel important every morning when I walked through the lobby. Sarah Williams and I met 2 years ago at a coffee shop. She was 24 years old, beautiful, ambitious, and trying to become a social media influencer. She had 15,000 followers on Instagram and constantly created lifestyle content. The first 6 months were perfect. Sarah was fun, spontaneous, and full of life. We cooked together, watched Netflix, went hiking on weekends. We had a simple but happy relationship, but over time, I started noticing that something was changing. Sarah's friends went to expensive restaurants, took luxury vacations, wore designer clothes, and Sarah began increasingly longing for this lifestyle. "Alex, why don't we ever go to expensive places?" "Alex, my friends all drive BMWs and Mercedes. Why are you still driving that old Toyota?" "Alex, have you ever thought about buying me jewelry?" Here's where there was a critical detail that Sarah didn't know. I really did live modestly, but it wasn't because I was poor. Let me tell you the truth. In 2009, when I was still a college student, I started investing in Bitcoin. Everyone said it was internet money and had no value. I bought 2,000 Bitcoin with $500 of my allowance money. You know what happened to Bitcoin's value? But wait, the story doesn't end there. While studying computer engineering in college, I developed a mobile app. It was a simple productivity app, but users really liked it. In 2017, I sold this app for $12 million. I also invested early in Tesla, Apple, and Amazon stocks, and I was an angel investor in several startups. As of 2023, my net worth was approximately $50 million, but I never showed this money. Why? Because I wanted to learn what real love was. Did they love me for my money or for who I really was? I loved my old Toyota. I preferred wearing t-shirts I bought from Zara. My house was simple but comfortable. Instead of going to expensive restaurants, I preferred cooking at home. But Sarah saw all of this as lack of ambition. Over time, I felt Sarah's perspective toward me changing. She seemed embarrassed to introduce me around her friends. She started using the word friend instead of boyfriend. But the real turning point came that evening. It was a Friday evening in March. We were going to Sarah's friend Jessica's birthday party. It was at a luxury rooftop bar in Belltown. We didn't usually go to places like this because Sarah knew I avoided expenses. When we arrived at the party, the atmosphere immediately changed. Everyone was wearing expensive clothes. Men were wearing Rolex watches. Women were walking around with Chanel bags. I had come there in $40 pants I bought from Zara. When Sarah's friends saw me, they gave those looks, like, "Oh, Alex came too," as if I didn't have the right to be there. That's when Marcus Fitzgerald entered the scene. He was 32 years old, 6 feet 1 inch, like he stepped out of GQ magazine. Armani suit, Patek Philippe watch, perfect haircut. Everyone had heard he came in his Lamborghini because the valet had made quite a show when delivering the keys. Marcus introduced himself as a real estate developer. He talked about developing luxury condominium projects downtown, having a summer house in Miami, losing $50,000 in Las Vegas last week but not caring about it. And Sarah couldn't take her eyes off this man. Throughout the evening, I watched Sarah flirt with Marcus. She giggled while listening to his stories, touched his arm, took selfies with him. She ignored me as if I wasn't there. On the way home, Sarah was quiet. I couldn't stand it and asked, "Sarah, is there a problem? You seemed a bit distant tonight." That's when she exploded. "Alex, we need to talk. I'm 26 years old and I know what I want from my life. I want security, I want luxury, I want to guarantee my future." "You're a good man, really? But face it, you'll never be able to give me the life I deserve. There are men like Marcus in this world, truly successful men, and I deserve to be with them." That night I didn't say anything. I just nodded and said, "I understand." But actually I didn't understand anything. The girl I had been with for 2 years was leaving me because of my financial situation. Yet that financial situation was actually much better than she could ever imagine. The following Monday at noon, right in the middle of an important client meeting, a message came to my phone. It was from Sarah. "Alex, I've thought a lot about our situation. You're really a good man, but I can't wait anymore. Our relationship ends here. I hope you'll be happy." Sarah, a 2-year relationship, with a single message, during a meeting. When I went to her house that evening, she had packed all her things. She only left a note. "Keys are on the table. Goodbye, Alex." But the really painful part came later. 2 days later, I saw Sarah's high-quality photos with Marcus on Instagram. They were eating at fancy restaurants, driving around in his Lamborghini, drinking champagne at his penthouse. Sarah's Instagram stories were like a catalogue of wealth. Finally living my best life. Some people deserve luxury. Dreams do come true. Each story was like stabbing a knife into me. Our mutual friends started calling me. "Alex, we're so sorry to hear. Don't worry, there will be better for you. What Sarah did was terrible, but maybe you're free." The pity looks were what I could stand the least, but the real humiliation happened 2 weeks later. Saturday evening, I went to my favorite restaurant, the little Italian place in Belltown. I wanted a table alone there, just to think a bit and pull myself together. Just as my food arrived, Sarah and Marcus walked in through the door. Of course they did. Marcus wanted to sit with her at what he called his special table. The moment they noticed me, everything changed. Sarah gave an embarrassed, "Hello, Alex." Marcus acted very differently. "You're Alex, right? The, old friend Sarah mentioned." He especially emphasized the word friend. "I'm Marcus, Sarah's real boyfriend." He extended his hand, but with such an attitude as if he was doing me a favor. "Sarah told me your story. Software developer, right?" Nice. Everyone has their own level." He smiled. "At least now you can see what a real man looks like." Sarah didn't say anything. She just looked at the ground. Marcus put his arm around Sarah's shoulder and said, "Sweetheart, should we order champagne? We have a lot to celebrate tonight." I stood up, paid my bill, and left, quietly. Behind me, I heard Marcus shout, "Take care of yourself, Alex." That night I sat in my car and cried, being abandoned by the woman I loved for 2 years, then being humiliated by her new boyfriend. It was the worst moment of my life. But that night I made a decision. This couldn't continue like this. The next day, I decided to do in-depth research about Marcus Fitzgerald. If this man was really that rich, I wanted to see how he achieved it. His LinkedIn profile was impressive. Fitzgerald Development Group CEO, luxury real estate expert, serial entrepreneur. His photos were good too, in his expensive office, wearing a construction helmet in front of big construction projects, on private jets. But I'm a software developer. Internet research is my job. The first strange thing was that his company's website was very newly designed. When I looked at the domain records, I saw it was only 8 months old. The second strange thing was that none of the projects he completed mentioned his own name. They were always other companies' projects. I looked at public records. Marcus's real name wasn't Marcus James Fitzgerald. It was Mark Fitzgeraldson. He had legally changed his name 6 months ago. Getting a credit report would be illegal, but there were enough clues on social media. When I carefully examined his Instagram stories, I noticed interesting things. In none of the Lamborghini photos was the license plate visible. All the penthouse photos were taken from the same angle, as if there were places that didn't want to be shown. The Rolex watch being different models in some photos. I spoke with a private detective. For $2,000, he agreed to investigate Marcus's complete financial situation. The report that came a week later was incredible. The Lamborghini that Marcus owned was actually rented. He was paying $2,500 monthly. He shared the penthouse with 2 roommates. Only the living room and master bedroom were his. His Rolex watch was a fake Chinatown copy. To finance his luxury lifestyle, he was borrowing from 6 different credit cards. He had a total of $180,000 in credit card debt. And most importantly, Fitzgerald Development Group was on the verge of bankruptcy. They hadn't earned any income in the last 3 months and were looking for a major investor. That night I sat with the report in my hands and made my plan. Marcus was a fake rich man. Sarah didn't know this either. And I was a real millionaire. It was time for karma. My plan was simple but would be effective. I would buy Marcus's company as an anonymous investor, then reveal my true identity. First, I met with a good lawyer. Sarah Chen, ironically the same name, was a very successful corporate lawyer. When I explained the situation to her, she started laughing. "Alex, this might be the most creative revenge plan ever, and it's completely legal. We established a holding company in the Cayman Islands, Pacific Investment Holdings." On paper, it looked like a mysterious offshore investment fund. We prepared a $2.5 million investment offer for Marcus's company. The company's real value was around $400,000, but Marcus didn't know this. The offer had these conditions: completely anonymous investor, only condition, face-to-face meeting with CEO. Decision within 48 hours, lawyer Sarah Chen contacted Marcus and conveyed our offer. Marcus's reaction was as I expected. He got very excited and immediately wanted a meeting. We arranged the meeting in the Four Seasons Executive Conference Room. I covered the cost, but Marcus thought the investor had covered it. The meeting was set for Monday morning at 10. We only told Marcus, "You have a meeting with Mr. Chen." He didn't know my name was Alex Chen because Sarah had always introduced me as just Alex. The night before the meeting, I had the final meeting with lawyer Sarah Chen. The documents were ready. The plan was perfect. "Alex," said Sarah Chen, "this man is going to experience the shock of his life tomorrow." Monday morning at 9:45, I arrived at the Four Seasons. I was wearing a navy blue Armani suit. I had bought such an expensive thing for the first time, but this was a special day. When I entered the conference room, Marcus was already there. He looked excited and nervous. He had worn his best suit, combed his hair perfectly, wore his fake Rolex. When he saw me, he was surprised. "Alex, what are you doing here?" he asked. "I have a meeting with my investor." I smiled and sat at the head of the conference table. "Hello, Marcus. I'm Mr. Chen, Alex Chen." The expression change on Marcus's face was like a movie. Surprise, then confusion, then fear, then denial. "This must be a joke. You're a software developer. You're poor." I put Pacific Investment Holdings official documents on the table. Lawyer Sarah Chen also entered the room at that moment and introduced herself to Marcus. "Mr. Fitzgerald, My client, Mr. Chen, wants to discuss the $2.5 million investment offer with you. Marcus's hands started trembling. He was mumbling, "This isn't possible, this isn't possible," while examining the documents. "Marcus," I said in a calm voice, "the other day at the restaurant you said, 'At least now you can see what a real man looks like.' Can you see now?" "Alex, I can explain. Everything isn't that simple. I really—" "Marcus, stop." I silenced him with my hand. "I know your Lamborghini is rented. I know you share the penthouse with 2 friends. I know you have $180,000 in credit card debt. And I also know your company is about to go bankrupt." Marcus's face went completely white. "My offer is this. I'm buying your company. You'll work for me, and you'll tell Sarah the truth." Marcus begged for 30 minutes. He tried to explain, tried to make excuses, tried to negotiate, but he had no choice. His company needed money, otherwise it would close in a month. Finally, he signed. That afternoon, I owned 80% of Fitzgerald Development Group. Marcus was now working for me. My first order was simple: tell Sarah the truth. I followed Marcus. From a distance, I went to the cafe where he met with Sarah and sat at a distant table. I couldn't hear their conversation, but I could see Sarah's facial expressions. First surprise. I could see Marcus explaining something, then denial. Sarah was shaking her head, seeming to say, "No, no." Then anger. She stood up and started yelling at Marcus, then collapse. She sat back down and put her head in her hands. Marcus left the cafe 5 minutes later. Sarah remained sitting alone at the table, looking at her phone and crying. That evening, Sarah called me. "Alex, we need to talk." "No, Sarah, we don't." "Alex, please. Marcus told me everything. Are you really that rich?" "Sarah, you left me because I was poor. Now you want to come back when you learn I'm rich. What does this say about you?" "Alex, you misunderstood. I never loved you for money. I just—" "Sarah, stop. You loved me exactly for money, and you left me when you thought I didn't have money. Now there's money, but you're not here, and that's how it's going to stay." Today, a year has passed since these events. My life has completely changed, but not the way they wanted. I restructured Fitzgerald Development Group, and now it's a truly successful company. Marcus still works with me and actually does good work. He gave up playing fake wealth games and focused on his real job. Sarah tried to call me a few more times. She even showed up in front of my house last month, but I had turned a new page. I met Emma last October. She's also a software engineer, and when I first met her, I borrowed money from her because I couldn't pay for my 50-cent bus ticket. I had money but didn't have cash at that moment. She laughed and said, "Don't worry, I'll treat you." Emma loves me not for my money but for my bad jokes. We play video games together, order pizza, and watch Netflix. This is simple but real happiness. The lessons I learned from this story are: first, people's true character emerges during difficult times. Sarah's true character emerged when she thought there was no money. Second, fake wealth requires much more effort than real wealth. Marcus was working much harder to maintain those lies. Third, karma is real, but sometimes you need to help karma work for you. Sarah said I could never give her the life she deserved. She was right. I couldn't give her the life she deserved because she deserved much more. She deserved real love, loyalty, and honesty. I told this story to give you hope. Sometimes life treats you unfairly. Sometimes they abandon you, humiliate you, make you feel worthless. But remember, your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. Your worth is determined by who you are, what you do, and how you behave. If this story taught you something, please don't forget to like and share it. And if you love karma stories like this, don't forget to subscribe because I'll tell you many more stories. My name is Alex Chen. I used to be seen as unsuccessful and poor. Now I'm a successful businessman who found real love. And Sarah? Sarah is still trying to recover from the disappointment created by Marcus's fake wealth. Sometimes karma works slowly, but it definitely works.